Most people care more about themselves than about you. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but the truth is, most people care more about themselves than they ever will about you. It sounds cruel, even depressing, but it is rooted in the reality of human nature. Every person lives inside their own head, consumed by their own fears, desires, struggles, and insecurities. When you think others are judging you, criticizing you, or obsessing over your flaws, they're usually too preoccupied with their own lives to truly notice. This truth can feel like abandonment if you crave validation, but it is actually a form of liberation once you grasp it. We are wired to survive, to protect ourselves, and to advance our own interests. Even acts of kindness often carry hidden motives, because helping others makes people feel good about themselves, strengthens their image, or fulfills their own needs for connection. This doesn't mean people are incapable of love or loyalty, but it does mean their deepest loyalty will almost always remain with themselves. Expecting anyone to put you first consistently will only leave you disappointed. The sting of this realization is sharp. It means the comfort you long for, the attention you crave, and the recognition you hope to receive may never arrive. It means the people you think about constantly may barely think about you at all. But beneath the sting lies freedom. If most people are wrapped up in themselves, then their opinions of you hold far less weight than you believe. You are not under the spotlight as much as you fear. Once you accept this, you stop living for their approval. You stop shrinking yourself to avoid their judgment, and you finally begin to live unapologetically because their silence and their indifference no longer control you. Hard work doesn't guarantee success. We are raised on the comforting belief that if you just work hard enough, everything you dream of will eventually fall into place. It is drilled into us as children, reinforced by parents, teachers, and endless motivational slogans. But the harsh truth is that hard work, while essential, does not guarantee success. There are millions of people grinding themselves to the bone every single day who will never see their efforts pay off in the way they imagined. Hard work can increase your chances, but it does not shield you from failure, randomness, or the cold reality of competition. Life is not a straight equation where effort automatically equals results. Some people are born into privilege, others inherit connections, some stumble into luck, and many others are crushed by circumstances outside their control. You could pour your soul into a business only to have it collapse from a market crash. You could train harder than anyone else and still never be the fastest, strongest, or most talented in the room. You could sacrifice years for a company that replaces you the moment you're no longer convenient. This is why so many hardworking people carry quiet bitterness, because they believe their sweat and pain bought them a guarantee that was never real. The emotional sting comes when you realize the world doesn't reward effort, it rewards results. Hard work is only one piece of the equation. You also need strategy, timing, adaptability, connections, and sometimes just brutal luck. Accepting this hurts, but it also frees you. It forces you to stop believing life is fair, to stop clinging to a false promise, and instead to learn how to play the game with eyes wide open. Life isn't fair, and it never will be. One of the most excruciating truths you'll ever face is that life is not fair, and no matter how much you wish, fight, or cry about it, it never will be. From the moment you are born, the scales are uneven. Some people arrive into wealth while others inherit poverty. Some are born healthy, while others begin life already carrying disease. Some are gifted with beauty, charisma, or genius, while others must claw their way through every single obstacle just to be noticed. Life doesn't care about fairness. It doesn't hand out equal opportunities, and it doesn't operate on the principles of justice we long for. This reality is cruel because we crave order. We want to believe the good will be rewarded, the wicked will be punished, and that effort will always be recognized. But then you see liars and manipulators climbing to power while honest people are overlooked. You see cruelty go unpunished while kindness is taken for granted. You see tragedy strike the innocent while the corrupt thrive untouched. It gnaws at your soul, this imbalance, because you desperately want the world to make sense. But the brutal truth is it doesn't. And when you cling to the illusion that life should be fair, you only set yourself up for endless disappointment. The day you accept life's unfairness is the day you stop wasting energy screaming at the storm. You begin to adapt, to play with the hand you've been dealt instead of wishing for another. It hurts to swallow, but once you do, you stop waiting for fairness and start creating your own power in a world that owes you none. You can do everything right and still fail. Perhaps one of the most gut-wrenching lessons in life is realizing you can do everything right and still fail. You can follow every rule, make every smart choice, prepare for every outcome, and pour yourself entirely into a dream, only to watch it crumble in front of you. This truth cuts so deep because it strips away the comforting belief that control guarantees reward. We want to think that if we work hard, stay disciplined, and keep our intentions pure, the universe will align to honor our effort. But life doesn't play by those rules. Sometimes you lose the job even though you were the best candidate. Sometimes you love with everything you have and still get abandoned. Sometimes your business collapses because of a market shift you could never have predicted. Sometimes the opportunity you've trained your whole life for slips through your fingers in a single instant. It's a pain that doesn't just sting, it breaks something inside of you because you thought you were safe if you did things the right way. Failure in the face of perfect effort feels cruel, but it is reality. And yet, within that devastation lies a quiet revelation. Success is never guaranteed, no matter how flawless the preparation. You learn to stop clinging to outcomes and start valuing the process itself. You learn resilience, not when life rewards you, but when it betrays you after you've done everything in your power. That's where true strength is forged, in the ashes of the plans that didn't work, when you realize you are still standing, still breathing, and still capable of trying again. Time is the only resource you can't replace. There is no resource more precious, more fragile, and more unforgiving than time. You can lose money and earn it back. You can fail at love and try again. You can ruin your health and, to some degree, rebuild it. But once time slips through your fingers, it is gone forever, and nothing in this world can return it to you. Every second that ticks away is a second of your life you will never get back. This truth is terrifying because it means you are spending your life constantly, whether you realize it or not. People live as though time is endless. They waste days on people who don't care for them, on jobs they hate, on scrolling endlessly through distractions, believing tomorrow will always be there. But tomorrow is a fragile illusion. You don't get to decide how much time you have left. Death does not warn you before it arrives, and regret is the heaviest companion you can carry into your final days. It is in those quiet, haunting moments when people realize they traded away the most irreplaceable currency of existence for things that never mattered. This realization cuts deep because it forces you to confront your own mortality. It demands that you ask yourself whether the way you spend your hours reflects the life you truly want to live. Time is not a loan. It is not refundable. It is slipping through your hands every single moment, and it doesn't care whether you used it wisely or not. You either take ownership of it now, or one day you'll look back and wonder where it all went. Not everyone you love will love you back. Few truths cut as deep as realizing that not everyone you love will love you back. It's a sting that feels almost unbearable because love is one of the most vulnerable gifts you can offer. You open your chest, you bare your soul, you pour pieces of yourself into someone else, and sometimes they simply cannot or will not return it. You can be kind, loyal, giving, and genuine, and still find that your love is met with indifference, distance, or even rejection. That reality feels cruel, but it is a law of life as constant as gravity. Love is not a transaction where effort guarantees return. People love based on their desires, wounds, timing, and capacity, not your worth. Sometimes they don't feel what you feel. Sometimes they are too broken to reciprocate, and sometimes they crave something you cannot provide. The pain comes not only from their absence of love, but from the way it forces you to confront the limits of your control. You cannot will someone to care. You cannot force someone's heart to mirror yours. The torment lies in the silence between what you give and what you receive. You stay up thinking of them while they sleep peacefully without a thought of you. You replay moments, dissect words, and search for signs, while to them it was nothing more than passing time. This lesson shatters illusions, but it also liberates you. Because once you accept that love is not guaranteed, you stop begging for it where it doesn't exist. You realize your worth is not diminished by their blindness, and that the love you seek must first come from within. Money won't fix your deeper problems. We grow up believing money is the answer to everything, that if we just earn enough, the emptiness will fade, the pain will heal, and happiness will finally settle in. And yes, money matters. It puts food on the table, keeps the lights on, buys freedom, and eases the crushing weight of survival. But beyond meeting your basic needs, money cannot mend the fractures inside you. It won't heal the trauma you carry from childhood. It won't erase the loneliness that gnaws at you in the silence of your room. It won't bring back the people you've lost, nor will it give you purpose when you wake up with no reason to keep going. The cruel truth is money can disguise problems, but it cannot solve them. People who feel worthless will still feel worthless in a mansion. Couples who are broken will still scream at each other in luxury cars. Addictions, insecurities, and self-hatred don't vanish with a padded bank account. They often get magnified because there's nothing left to hide behind once survival is no longer the excuse. This is why some of the wealthiest people in the world confess to being the most miserable, why celebrities overdose, and why billionaires still chase more despite already owning everything. Chasing money without addressing what's hollow inside you is like pouring water into a cracked glass. It leaks no matter how much you fill it. It hurts to realize that what you really need isn't more wealth but more healing, more connection, more meaning. Money may buy comfort, but it cannot buy peace. And without peace, no amount of riches will ever feel like enough. Looks fade, but character stays. The world glorifies beauty, and it's easy to get caught up in it. Attention, admiration, and opportunities often come quicker to those who are blessed with good looks, but beauty is a cruel currency. It depreciates with time no matter how hard you fight to preserve it. Wrinkles arrive, bodies change, hair turns gray, and the sharpness of youth inevitably dulls. What once drew people toward you eventually fades, and if your entire identity is built on appearance, the day you lose it is the day you feel invisible. Character, however, doesn't age. Integrity, kindness, resilience, and the way you treat others endure far longer than flawless skin or a perfect body ever could. When people remember you, it will not be for the symmetry of your face, but for the way you made them feel. A beautiful face might open doors, but it is character that decides if they stay open. A stunning appearance may catch someone's eye, but it is your depth, loyalty, and honesty that capture their soul. The painful truth is that society will discard those who cling to fading beauty as if it is the only thing that matters. Yet those who cultivate strength of character find themselves more magnetic with time. Looks can attract a crowd, but character builds a legacy. The sting is realizing that beauty is temporary and cannot save you from the erosion of time. But the gift is knowing that what you build within yourself can outlast every wrinkle and remain untouchable until the very end. Comfort zones destroy ambition. Comfort feels safe. It feels warm, predictable, and deceptively satisfying. It lulls you into routines that don't challenge you, into habits that don't stretch you, and into a life that slowly robs you of your hunger for more. Your comfort zone is a silent killer of dreams because it convinces you that good enough is an acceptable replacement for greatness. You stop taking risks, you stop chasing possibilities, and before long, you stop even imagining more for yourself. Ambition dies not in chaos, but in comfort. What makes this truth so brutal is how easy it is to justify staying where you are. You tell yourself you'll chase the dream later, when you're ready. You convince yourself that stability matters more than growth. You tell yourself that happiness is found in being content, when deep down you know you're settling for less than you're capable of. Comfort seduces you with the illusion of peace, but underneath it festers the slow rot of regret. One day you'll look back and realize the years you thought you were taking it easy were actually the years you wasted the most. Ambition needs discomfort to survive. Growth demands risk, uncertainty, and the willingness to feel pain. You cannot climb mountains if you refuse to leave the valley. Every great achievement, every powerful transformation, every story worth telling is born in the space where comfort ends and challenge begins. The longer you cling to the safety of your comfort zone, the smaller your life becomes. And the terrifying truth is, you won't notice the chains tightening until it's too late. Your parents won't be here forever. It's a truth most people bury deep inside, one they refuse to face until it's too late. Your parents will not be here forever. The voices that shaped your childhood, the faces that greeted you when you came home, the people you took for granted as permanent fixtures in your life are not unshakable. One day, their chair will be empty, their phone will go unanswered, and their absence will echo louder than their presence ever did. That thought alone has the power to break you. Yet, most of us push it aside, living as though our parents will always be just a call away. The brutality of this lesson is in its timing. By the time you realize how precious their existence was, the clock has already run out. You spend years arguing over small things, ignoring their calls, postponing visits because you're too busy, all while time silently steals them away. You assume there will be another holiday, another dinner, another chance to tell them you love them. And then suddenly, there isn't. The regrets that follow are merciless because you can never buy back a single second once it's gone. It hurts because deep down you know they won't always be there to guide you, forgive you, or remind you who you are. And yet, within that pain lies an urgent reminder. Every laugh, every story, every hug is finite. The love they give is fragile and irreplaceable. The clock is ticking whether you acknowledge it or not, and when it stops, it will leave a silence you'll never be able to fill. Friends will drift apart, no matter how close you are. One of the quiet tragedies of life is realizing that even the closest friendships are not guaranteed forever. You grow up with people who feel like family, you share secrets, inside jokes, nights that feel endless, and promises that nothing will ever change. In those moments, it feels impossible to imagine a life where they are not by your side. But time is ruthless. People change, paths diverge, and the bond you thought was unbreakable begins to loosen. Sometimes it happens suddenly with a fight or betrayal, but more often it happens silently through distance, new priorities, or simply the slow erosion of connection. The pain of this lesson is that love alone isn't always enough to keep people bound together. Careers pull friends across the world, families shift their focus, ambition, hardship, or even personal growth can create gaps that no amount of nostalgia can fill. You'll scroll through old photos and ache for a time when everything felt permanent, when you could just knock on their door and know they'd be there. But life moves people forward, and sometimes that means moving away from you. What makes this hurt so deeply is that it feels like a betrayal of the past. You wonder if the laughter, the loyalty, the late-night conversations meant less to them than to you. The truth is, they did matter, just not forever. Friendships are seasons, some lasting years, some decades, some only brief sparks in the darkness. Accepting this doesn't dull the sting, but it teaches you to cherish every moment while it's alive, because one day, even the closest friends may only exist as memories you revisit alone. You'll be forgotten in a few generations. It's a haunting truth that no matter how much you love, how hard you work, or how deeply you impact the people around you, within just a few generations your name will fade into silence. Your grandchildren may remember your voice, your laugh, your habits, but their children won't, and the ones after that will know you only as a vague story, if they know you at all. The photos of you that once felt so alive will gather dust in a box or be deleted in a cloud purge. The world that consumed your thoughts and dreams will move forward without hesitation. This realization cuts deep because we spend our lives desperately trying to matter, to leave footprints, to make an impact, to be remembered. Yet history shows us how quickly names disappear. Millions lived before you, each with loves, fears, ambitions, and heartbreaks as real as yours. Where are they now? Buried under time, their existence reduced to silence. The same fate awaits you. It doesn't matter how beautiful you were, how wealthy, how hardworking, or even how kind. Eventually, you will become just another faceless part of the past, and that truth is terrifying because it forces you to confront how small you really are in the grand scheme. But it also strips away the illusions. If you will be forgotten, then the pressure to live for recognition collapses. You realize the only real meaning lies in now, in how deeply you love, how fiercely you live, and how authentically you show up while you still can. Because immortality isn't found in being remembered forever. It's found in mattering fiercely to the people who are here, right now. Good intentions don't excuse bad outcomes. We cling to the idea that if our heart was in the right place, the damage we cause should be forgiven. But the truth is far harsher. Good intentions don't erase the consequences of bad choices. You can mean well and still devastate someone's life. You can try to help and still end up hurting. You can love deeply and still cause irreparable scars. Intent may explain your actions, but it does not undo the harm those actions create. This lesson stings because it strips away the comforting shield of innocence we try to hide behind. When someone bleeds because of what you did, your explanation that you meant well doesn't stop the wound from throbbing. When trust is broken, when opportunities are ruined, when pain is inflicted, your intentions become irrelevant in the shadow of the damage left behind. People remember how you made them feel, not the purity of your motives. It forces you to confront responsibility in its rawest form. You are not judged only by what you hoped would happen, but by what actually happened. That's why apologies often feel hollow. They cannot erase impact. It's why victims of betrayal, neglect, or failure rarely find comfort in knowing they didn't mean to. What makes this truth brutal is its permanence. Harm echoes long after intent fades, and you cannot control how others carry the weight of what you did. You can explain, you can regret, but you cannot demand forgiveness, because consequences live on long after your excuses are spoken. People judge you on results, not effort. One of the most crushing realizations in life is that people care far less about how hard you tried than about what you actually achieved. Effort is invisible. Results are undeniable. You can spend sleepless nights working, sacrifice your comfort, bleed for your dream, and still be dismissed if you have nothing tangible to show for it. The world doesn't hand out rewards for sweat. It hands them out for outcomes. That truth is brutal because deep down you want your struggle to mean something. You want others to recognize the pain it took to even get close, but most won't. In the workplace, no one celebrates the hours you stayed late unless the project succeeds. In relationships, your partner doesn't always see the love in the little things you tried. They feel the absence when needs aren't met. In society, people look up to those who won, not those who almost made it. The brutal irony is that sometimes those who put in the least effort but deliver the best timing, strategy, or luck are praised above those who sacrificed everything but fell short. This reality leaves scars because it feels unfair. It feels as though your pain was wasted, as though no one truly sees how much you gave. But it's also the wake-up call you need. Life rewards impact, not intention. It rewards what can be measured, touched, or remembered, not the unseen hours behind it. Accepting this forces you to shift from simply working hard to working effectively, because at the end of the day, people won't ask how much it cost you. They'll only ask, did it work? No one is thinking about you as much as you think. One of the most liberating yet brutal truths is that no one is obsessing over you the way you believe they are. You replay that awkward sentence you said, the mistake you made, the moment you stumbled, convinced the world is still whispering about it. But the reality is people are far too consumed with their own lives to spend more than a fleeting second thinking about yours. The human mind is self-absorbed. We live in constant loops of our own fears, desires, insecurities, and responsibilities. And while you're lying awake imagining the judgment of others, they are doing the same about themselves. It's painful because your ego craves attention. You want to believe your life is significant enough to be at the center of someone else's focus, whether for admiration or ridicule. But once you realize how little space you actually occupy in the thoughts of others, it stings. That embarrassment you carry like a scar, they forgot it by the next morning. That flaw you magnify in the mirror, they never noticed because they were too busy picking apart their own reflection. This truth can feel cruel at first because it forces you to confront how insignificant your worries are in the grand scheme of things. Yet hidden inside it is a strange kind of freedom. If no one is watching as closely as you think, you don't have to live shackled to their imagined judgment. You don't have to hold yourself hostage to an audience that isn't even paying attention. You are freer than you realize, free to act, to fail, to try again, because everyone else is too lost in their own storm to track yours. You're not as special as you were told as a kid. Growing up, many of us were fed the comforting lie that we were extraordinary, destined for greatness simply because we existed. Teachers, parents, and society whispered it into our ears. You're unique. You're special. You can do anything. It felt good. It made childhood magical, and it gave us a sense of significance. But the brutal awakening comes in adulthood, when the world shows you it doesn't care about your uniqueness. You step into the real arena and discover that millions of others are just as talented, just as driven, and just as hungry as you are. Suddenly, your specialness doesn't mean much. This realization is crushing because it shatters the illusion of being chosen, of being set apart by destiny. It feels like betrayal, like everything you were promised was a lie. You discover that success isn't handed to those who are different. It goes to those who fight, who endure, who strategize, who adapt. And often, it goes to those who simply get lucky. Being special doesn't protect you from heartbreak, failure, or insignificance. It doesn't guarantee anyone will notice your worth. But within this pain is a strange kind of freedom. If you are not inherently special, then you have nothing to prove except to yourself. You no longer live with the pressure of fulfilling some mythical destiny. Instead, you realize that meaning must be created, not gifted. You stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself. And though it stings to realize you are just one among billions, it also awakens a deeper truth. Your value doesn't come from being special. It comes from what you build, how you live, and the love and grit you choose to give while you're here. Most people only want you when you're useful. It's a cruel reality to face. But for most people, your value begins and ends with your usefulness. They want your time when it benefits them, your skills when it solves their problems, your presence when it entertains them, your ear when they need to unload their burdens. The moment you have nothing to offer, or worse, when you need something from them, you begin to see just how conditional their attention truly is. This truth cuts deep because it forces you to confront how transactional human relationships can be, even the ones that feel genuine. Think about the times you've been praised at work, adored in friendships, or admired by strangers. How often was it tied to what you could give rather than who you actually are? People rarely admit it, but they gravitate toward those who serve their interests, and when you stop being useful, the silence becomes deafening. Suddenly, the people who couldn't live without you vanish. The phone stops ringing. The gratitude fades. You're left realizing you were never cherished. You were convenient. This lesson is painful because it shatters illusions of unconditional loyalty. It reveals that much of what we call love, friendship, or respect is often disguised dependency. It's not that everyone is cold or cruel, but survival instincts make people prioritize their own needs first. That's why the moment you stop serving them, they move on to someone who will. And yet, in this harsh truth lies clarity. When you strip away usefulness, the ones who remain are rare and real. They don't stay because of what you give. They stay because of who you are. Everyone else was never yours to keep. Love is not enough to sustain a relationship. It's one of the hardest lessons to accept, that love, as powerful and intoxicating as it feels, is not enough to hold a relationship together. Movies, songs, and stories feed us the illusion that love conquers all, that if two people truly care for each other, they can weather anything. But in reality, love is only the spark. It is not the structure. You can love someone deeply and still find yourselves breaking apart. You can share passion, chemistry, and history, yet watch it all collapse under the weight of neglect, resentment, or incompatibility. Relationships demand more than feelings. They demand communication, respect, trust, patience, sacrifice, and an unrelenting effort to grow together rather than drift apart. Without these, love suffocates. It twists into arguments that repeat endlessly, into silent distances where words once lived, into bitterness where tenderness used to bloom. You can adore someone with your entire soul and still not survive the storms if both of you refuse to build the foundation strong enough to endure them. The devastation lies in realizing that love is not a shield. It cannot erase betrayal. It cannot replace honesty. It cannot balance one-sided effort. Sometimes two people love each other but want different futures. Sometimes they love each other but keep wounding one another in ways that love cannot heal. That is why so many hearts break while still full of love, because love by itself was never the glue. The cruel truth is that love alone is fragile, and without the pillars of commitment and compatibility, it eventually crumbles, leaving behind a haunting ache of what could have been. Happiness is temporary, so is sadness. One of the hardest truths to hold on to is that nothing you feel will last forever. Happiness is fleeting. Sadness is fleeting. Every high eventually dips, and every low eventually lifts. Yet we cling to happiness as if we can freeze it in time, terrified that once it slips through our fingers, it may never return. And when sadness comes, we convince ourselves it will consume us forever, that the weight pressing down will never let us breathe again. But life doesn't work that way. Emotions are not permanent states. They are passing weather, and no storm, no sunshine ever lingers without end. This truth hurts because when happiness arrives, you want to own it, to stretch it endlessly, to believe you finally made it. But it fades. The laughter quiets. The excitement cools. The love you thought would never dim begins to shift, and the loss can feel unbearable, like life is cruel for taking away what you cherished most. But just as painful is the opposite, the belief that sadness defines you. When heartbreak guts you, when failure suffocates you, when grief leaves you hollow, it feels eternal. The clock slows, the world darkens, and you start to believe you will never escape. But you do. Slowly, silently, life moves, seasons change, smiles return in moments you didn't expect, light breaks through cracks in the grief, Both happiness and sadness are reminders of the same lesson. Everything changes. The beauty is in knowing that neither joy nor pain owns you forever. Both are temporary guests, and your life is bigger than either one. Discipline beats motivation. Motivation feels intoxicating. It's the spark that makes you believe you can change your life, the adrenaline rush that pushes you to start a project, hit the gym, or chase a dream. But motivation is fleeting. It comes in bursts, unreliable and unpredictable, disappearing the moment things get hard. Discipline, however, is what carries you through the days when you feel like quitting. It is the unglamorous, relentless force that builds a life brick by brick, even when every ounce of you screams to stop. The brutal truth is that those who rely only on motivation never last. They burn bright and fade fast, constantly waiting for inspiration to strike, constantly trapped in cycles of starting and stopping. Discipline doesn't care how you feel in the moment. It doesn't require passion, energy, or excitement. It is the simple, painful choice to keep showing up no matter what, to write when the words won't come, to train when your body aches, to push forward when no one is watching and no one is clapping. This lesson stings because it means your feelings don't matter as much as you want them to. The world does not reward your intentions. It rewards what you repeatedly do, even when you don't feel like doing it. Motivation might get you moving, but discipline is what makes you unstoppable. It strips away excuses, silences self-pity, and transforms small actions into massive change over time. The day you stop chasing the high of motivation and start submitting to the grind of discipline is the day your life truly begins to shift. Your health can vanish overnight. We live as though our bodies are invincible, as if tomorrow will always arrive with the same strength, energy, and stability we take for granted today. But the reality is far more fragile. Your health can vanish overnight. One accident, one diagnosis, one sudden collapse, and the life you thought was yours to control can be ripped away in a single moment. You can go to bed healthy and wake up in a hospital bed. You can plan decades ahead and watch them disappear with a single phone call from a doctor. This truth is terrifying because it reminds you of just how little control you really have. People imagine sickness creeping in slowly with age, but often it doesn't ask for permission. It comes suddenly, without warning, and leaves you scrambling to piece together the life you thought you had time for. The dreams you put off, the people you postponed seeing, the chances you waited to take, all of it stands there mocking you when your body no longer allows you to move the way you once did. And what makes this lesson so brutal is that health is the one foundation everything else in life is built upon. Without it, money means little, ambitions shrink, and even love is strained under the weight of constant suffering. You don't realize how much you've neglected your body until it betrays you. The truth is, your time and freedom are only as secure as your health, and it can all disappear in a single, merciless instant. Success attracts envy, not just admiration. When you imagine success, you picture applause, recognition, and the warmth of admiration. You think people will celebrate your victories, cheer for your growth, and respect the sacrifices it took to get there. But the truth is far darker. Success doesn't only attract admiration, it attracts envy, resentment, and even hatred. The moment you rise above the average, you shine a light on other people's insecurities. Your success becomes a mirror, reflecting back what they haven't done, what they wish they had, or what they're too afraid to pursue. And instead of inspiring them, it poisons them. You'll notice it in the subtle ways first. Friends who once supported you stop showing up. Family members downplay your achievements. Colleagues whisper behind your back. Strangers online tear you apart for the very things they once praised. The higher you climb, the lonelier it gets, because people are far more comfortable with you struggling than with you thriving. Success exposes the truth of human nature. Admiration is easy when you're harmless. But the moment you become a reminder of someone else's failures, envy seeps in. The pain of this realization cuts deep because you want your victories to bring people closer, not push them away. You want others to feel proud of you, not threatened by you. But this is the price of growth. Success separates you from the crowd, and not everyone can stomach the reflection it forces them to face. And while you may still receive admiration, know that lurking just beneath the surface of many smiles is envy, waiting, watching, wishing you would stumble. Regret weighs more than failure. Failure stings, but regret crushes. When you fail, at least you know you tried. You stood up, took the shot, and even if it didn't land, you gained something. Lessons, resilience, a story, proof that you had the courage to move. But regret is different. Regret festers in silence. It's the heavy ache of the words you never said, the chances you never took, the life you never dared to chase. It's not a sharp pain that fades with time. It's a slow poison that seeps deeper the longer you live with it. The brutality of regret is that it whispers, "What if?" in the quiet hours, long after the window of opportunity has closed. You imagine alternate versions of yourself, braver, bolder, freer, living lives that you never allowed yourself to experience. Failure at least gives closure, but regret leaves you haunted by a ghost of possibility. And the older you get, the heavier it feels. Opportunities don't wait forever, and the realization that you wasted years standing still can break something inside you in a way failure never could. Failure hurts, but it moves you forward. You stumble, but you grow. You fall, but you rise. Regret keeps you frozen, replaying the same moment, the same fear, the same hesitation over and over until it chains you to the past. The pain of falling is nothing compared to the pain of never jumping at all. And when the end of your life approaches, it won't be your failures that haunt you. It will be all the things you were too afraid to even try. Complaining changes nothing. Complaining feels good in the moment. It gives you a sense of release, a way to voice your frustrations, to point at the unfairness of life, to gather sympathy from others who nod along. But beneath the temporary relief, nothing changes. The bills remain unpaid, the weight doesn't disappear, the toxic job doesn't improve, and the broken relationship doesn't heal. Complaining is seductive because it tricks you into thinking you're doing something about your problems, when in reality, you're just circling them without moving an inch. The harsh truth is that life doesn't bend for your grievances. The universe does not care about your complaints. Time keeps moving forward, whether you speak your pain or not. People may listen for a while, but eventually they grow numb because words without action lose their weight. And the longer you indulge in complaint, the deeper you carve a hole of helplessness, teaching yourself that you are powerless, when in reality you are simply avoiding responsibility. This realization hurts because complaining feels like connection, but it's often poison. It drives away the strong, attracts only the miserable, and keeps you stuck in the very cycle you despise. The sting is realizing that no amount of words will ever substitute for action. No one is coming to fix it for you. Change only comes when you decide to stop describing the problem and start doing something about it. The silence after giving up complaints is brutal, but it is also the place where real progress begins to take root. People die younger than they expect. We all live with a quiet illusion that death is something far away, reserved for the elderly, a distant shadow we'll face someday when we are ready. But the brutal truth is that people die younger than they expect. Death doesn't wait for you to finish your plans. It doesn't care about the dreams you haven't pursued, the apologies you haven't spoken, or the love you haven't expressed. It arrives suddenly, often without warning, and leaves behind shattered lives, unanswered questions, and a haunting reminder that tomorrow is never promised. Look around and you'll see the proof everywhere. Accidents that steal children, illnesses that strike the young, violence that cuts down lives in their prime. Families gather at funerals in disbelief, whispering the same words again and again. They were too young. But the truth is, death has no regard for age, status, or timing. It comes for the healthy and the sick, the prepared and the unprepared, the cautious and the reckless. This reality stings because it strips away the illusion of control. We tell ourselves we have time to fix broken relationships, time to pursue our passions, time to finally start living the life we imagine. But time is not guaranteed, and every day spent waiting is a gamble against a clock you cannot see. The harshness of this truth is not just in the loss of others, but in the knowledge that it could be you. One day, your story will end sooner than you planned, and all that will remain are the things you either did or never had the courage to do. Your job will replace you within weeks if you leave. One of the most brutal realities of modern life is that no matter how hard you work, no matter how loyal you are, no matter how many hours you've sacrificed for your job, the moment you step away, by choice or by force, your role will be filled in a matter of weeks. Companies run on systems, not sentiment. They don't pause to mourn your absence. They adapt, redistribute, and replace. The tasks you lost sleep over, the deadlines that felt like life or death, will be handed off to someone else as if you were never there. It hurts because we like to believe we are irreplaceable. We convince ourselves that our loyalty, our long nights, our sacrifices matter to the machine we serve. But to most employers, you are a function, not a family. You can be praised, rewarded, even liked. But when the moment comes, business will continue without you. That stings because it exposes how much of your life you may have given to something that cannot love you back. And yet, this lesson carries a strange kind of freedom. If your job will replace you quickly, why sacrifice your entire existence for it? Why trade precious time with loved ones, passions, or your own health for a role that sees you as disposable? The brutal truth is that the company you work for is temporary, but your life is not. And when you finally accept that your job won't die without you, you begin to understand that your real worth lies in building a life outside those walls. Because they can replace your position, but they can never replace you. No one cares about your excuses. Excuses feel comforting in the moment. They shield you from shame, soften the sting of failure, and paint you as a victim of circumstance rather than the architect of your own choices. But the harsh truth is, no one cares about your excuses. The world judges you by what you produce, not by the stories you tell to explain why you couldn't. People might nod when you justify yourself, but inside, they only see results or the lack of them. Excuses don't change reality. They only reveal where you surrendered your power. This lesson cuts deep because excuses often feel valid. Maybe you were tired. Maybe life was unfair. Maybe you truly had obstacles stacked against you. But life is indifferent to your reasons. Deadlines don't shift for your comfort. Opportunities don't reopen because you had a rough week. Competitors don't slow down so you can catch up. Every excuse, no matter how logical, only leaves you further behind. And when repeated long enough, excuses transform into identity. You become someone who almost did, who could have, who should have, but never did. What makes this truth so brutal is how isolating it feels. You realize people don't hold space for your struggles the way you imagined, because they are drowning in their own. They care about what you can deliver, not why you didn't. It hurts to see your explanations met with silence, but that silence is a mirror. The world moves on without waiting for your reasons. The moment you stop leaning on excuses, you reclaim your control. But until then, no one is listening. Most people settle instead of chasing what they want. One of the darkest truths about life is that most people do not live the lives they dreamed of. They settle. They settle for jobs they hate, for relationships that drain them, for routines that numb them, all while convincing themselves that this is what being realistic looks like. At some point, the fire they once carried, the hunger for adventure, the vision of something greater, gets smothered by fear, comfort, and the weight of responsibility. And slowly, they stop chasing what they truly want and accept whatever is handed to them. The reason is simple but brutal. Chasing what you want is terrifying. It requires risk, sacrifice, and the possibility of failure. It demands courage when everything in you wants safety. Settling, on the other hand, offers predictability. It promises stability, even if it comes wrapped in quiet misery. And so people trade passion for comfort, potential for security, and dreams for routine. They convince themselves it's enough, but deep down, a haunting emptiness lingers, the knowing that they could have been more, done more, lived more. This truth hurts to face because it forces you to look at your own life and ask if you're settling too. It's easier to believe you'll chase your dreams someday, but someday rarely comes, and when it does, it often arrives too late. Most people die with their music still inside them, with their dreams still locked away. The sting of this lesson is realizing that settling is not living. It's slow death. And if you don't want to end up like most people, you have to choose the terrifying path of chasing what you want, no matter the cost. Life punishes procrastination. Procrastination feels harmless in the moment. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, that there's still plenty of time, that one more hour, one more day won't make a difference. But life is merciless to those who wait. Every delay compounds silently, stacking wasted days into wasted years, until suddenly the chance you thought you had forever is gone. Opportunities expire, people move on, time erodes your energy, your youth, and your potential, and life does not hand them back because you weren't ready. The sting of procrastination isn't immediate, it's delayed. It arrives when you finally feel the weight of the years you wasted, when you realize someone braver took the shot you hesitated on, when you see doors slam shut that will never open again, the job you didn't apply for, the person you didn't confess to, the project you never started, all of them haunt you, not because they failed, but because you never gave them a chance. This truth cuts so deeply because procrastination disguises itself as comfort. It feels safe to postpone risk, to avoid discomfort, to wait until you feel more confident. But life does not reward hesitation. It rewards action. And while you're waiting for the perfect time, someone else is already living the life you dream about. The punishment for procrastination is regret. Regret for the words you never spoke, the leaps you never took, the life you never lived. And the cruelest part, the world moves on without you, leaving you behind with nothing but the echo of what could have been. Words mean little without action. It's easy to speak. Words cost nothing, require no sacrifice, and can be shaped into anything someone else wants to hear. Promises, apologies, declarations of love, vows of change, they all sound powerful in the moment. But the brutal truth is that words mean almost nothing without action to back them up. A promise without follow-through is just air. An apology without change is just manipulation. Love without effort is just a hollow echo. People may be moved by what you say once or twice, but over time, they will always measure you by what you do. This truth is painful because words feel so real in the moment. Hearing "I love you," "I'll be there," or "I promise I'll change" can flood your heart with hope. But then comes the waiting, the watching, the disappointment when nothing actually shifts. That sting is unforgettable. The realization that someone's voice carried weight only long enough to comfort you, never long enough to transform into reality. It breeds distrust, not just in them, but in words altogether. And it cuts both ways. You can talk for years about your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, but unless you move, unless you sacrifice, unless you act, your words are worthless. Life does not reward intention. It rewards execution. People don't remember what you said nearly as much as they remember how you showed up. The harshness of this lesson is also its clarity. Words may open the door, but only action walks you through it. Without action, words are nothing more than lies dressed in sound. Entitlement kills growth. Entitlement whispers that the world owes you something simply for existing, for showing up, for working hard, for enduring pain, for being who you are. It convinces you that success, recognition, and happiness should fall into your lap without the messy grind of sacrifice, patience, and humility. But the brutal truth is, entitlement suffocates growth. The moment you believe you deserve everything without earning it, you stop striving, you stop learning, and you stop pushing yourself beyond comfort. Entitlement is the silent poison that robs you of resilience before you even realize it's happening. Growth is born in struggle. It comes from failing, adjusting, and forcing yourself to rise again when no one is clapping for you. But entitlement shields you from this process by telling you the world is unfair for not giving you what you want right now. It feeds bitterness when others succeed. It breeds jealousy instead of inspiration, and it blinds you to the very lessons hidden inside rejection. Instead of asking, "What can I learn?" entitlement screams, "Why me?" And in that mindset, growth dies. What makes this truth sting is that entitlement often masquerades as confidence. You tell yourself you've worked hard enough, suffered long enough, given enough, and therefore the universe must deliver. But life does not bend to your sense of fairness. It doesn't care about your timeline or your comfort. The second you demand instead of earn, you stagnate. And years later, you're left with nothing but anger at a world that failed you, when in reality, it was entitlement that kept you from ever truly evolving. Bad habits are easier to form than good ones. The cruel reality of human behavior is that bad habits take root far quicker than good ones ever will. Skipping the gym once easily turns into weeks of laziness. One night of fast food becomes a routine. A single scroll through your phone when you should be working transforms into hours of wasted time. Bad habits grow like weeds, effortless, aggressive, and relentless. They demand nothing from you except surrender. Good habits, on the other hand, are fragile. They require discipline, repetition, and conscious effort, often with little reward in the beginning. Waking up early feels like torture before it feels like freedom. Eating healthy feels like deprivation before it feels like strength. Saving money feels like sacrifice before it feels like security. To build a good habit, you must fight yourself day after day, while bad habits slide into your life with seductive ease, disguised as comfort, pleasure, or relief. The sting of this truth is realizing how quickly your life can spiral in the wrong direction with almost no resistance. One careless choice repeated enough times can quietly dismantle your health, your happiness, and your future. Bad habits never announce their destruction. They whisper it into your life until you wake up years later, wondering how you became someone you never meant to be. This is why most people stay trapped. They underestimate how viciously easy it is to fall, and how brutally hard it is to climb back up. The battle is unfair, but it is real, and unless you learn to guard yourself, the path of least resistance will quietly lead you to ruin. You can't please everyone. No matter how hard you try, no matter how kind, selfless, or careful you are, someone will always be disappointed, offended, or dissatisfied with you. This truth is brutal because deep down, most of us crave acceptance. We bend, we sacrifice, we contort ourselves to meet expectations, believing that if we just give enough, if we just try harder, we can finally earn universal approval. But the reality is unshakable. You can't please everyone, and the harder you try, the more you lose yourself in the process. For every person who praises you, another will criticize you. For everyone who loves you, another will resent you. Some will judge you harshly no matter what you do, not because of who you are, but because of what they lack. And when you live for their approval, you give away the power to shape your own life. You become a prisoner of shifting expectations